My protein target is 120 grams a day, and I beat that before I even leave the office and get home to have dinner. Hi, I'm Tina, and on this channel, I share high protein, low carb recipes that taste good. I eat low carb because I have to. I have reactive hypoglycemia, and a low carb diet is the treatment. So today I'm bringing you along on Meal Prep Sunday. And we're going to start by prepping breakfast, and that is going to bring us 47 grams of protein a day. Then we have a morning snack, which is going to have 13 grams, followed by lunch, which has a whopping 60 grams of protein. And then we'll finish that up with our afternoon snack, which has another 9 grams. So that's going to give us 129 grams of protein before we even leave the office. We're going to start this Sunday meal prep off with my ground beef breakfast scramble. So we'll start off with 2 pounds of ground beef. Now, we only need 4 ounces a day, and we're prepping for 5 days. Of course, that's 20 ounces, but you don't find a 20-ounce pack. So I'll have leftovers that I will use for other dishes, or I will use it for breakfast on the weekends. Give it to the dogs. They always enjoy that. All right, so we got the 2 pounds of ground beef in the pan. To this, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of minced garlic and 2 tablespoons of chopped onions, which I already happen to have chopped from a recipe earlier this week. All right, so let's mash this up. Break this up some more in a minute. I want to go ahead and season it. I really like this smash burger seasoning. It gives it a really good burger seasoning once you get your eggs mixed in it. So I really like this one, but you can use whatever combination of seasons that you like. I don't know how much I put in here. I just kind of measure with my heart on this one. All right, so let's break this up a little bit, and we're going to let it cook. All right, it looks like this is done now. So we're going to drain the excess fat off of it and let it cool so that we can pack everything up. Once this cools off, I pre-portion out 4 ounces into these 2-cup Snapware containers. And then what I'll do is I will put a 1/2 cup of cheese, a 1/4 cup of cheese that I've already shredded onto that bowl, and then I will store those in the refrigerator. So in the morning, when I'm about ready to leave to go to work, I just take out the container from the refrigerator and dump that into the pan with about 1/2 tablespoon of melted butter. I'm just gonna let this heat up for a second while I scramble up the eggs. And I like to add a little bit of nature's seasoning to the eggs. And while I did season the meat when we cooked it, I just like a little bit of extra seasoning. So I add that in there when I'm scrambling them up. All right, just throw those right in there with the egg or with the meat. And then we're just gonna scramble it up. Now, when this is done, I will just throw it right back in the same container that I prepped it in so that I can just throw it in my lunchbox or my backpack and take it to the office with me. What I also do to prepare for my breakfast in the morning is I will, because I like a slice of hero toast, so I will go ahead and pre-package those up into baggies and sit them in the refrigerator with it, along with 1 tablespoon of the organic strawberry preserve. Other thing I like to do for this particular breakfast is add some salsa on it because it just brightens it up. And I like salsa for a hack anyway, because it's got your tomatoes and your onions and your garlic, and it's got cilantro in it. Like it's all of your seasoning in one little container. Super easy to put together. So again, I just do a tablespoon of the salsa, and I package this all up in the refrigerator, and that's my breakfast that I take to the office. When I get to the office, of course, we have a toaster. I toast up my bread, but I just pop this in the microwave for 1.5 minutes while my toast is toasting. And then when I get back to my desk, I put the salsa on. So total for this breakfast worked out to 47 grams of protein. And it's only 9 o'clock. All right, let's give it a taste and see how it turned out. Tastes like the cheeseburger breakfast scramble that I know and love. The savory ground beef, the creamy eggs, the sharp cheddar, and the salsa that brightens it up just a tad, just enough to bridge the gap between breakfast and lunch. Of course, we have to have a snack. I usually eat mine around 10 a.m. and my favorite is my blueberry sausage breakfast muffins. We'll start off here with 1.5 cups of almond flour. Now, I posted this one on my channel a couple months ago because it is one of my favorite muffins that I make. So we're gonna just kind of breeze through this here, but I will link the full video down below. So after the 1.5 cups of almond flour, we're gonna do a 1/2 cup of maple flavor protein powder. And I use this one right here. It's a HTLT. It's a new one for me. I don't normally buy this brand, but it's the only one I found with a maple flavor. If you don't have maple flavor protein powder, vanilla will work in this. You'll just use an extra teaspoon of the maple extract. Next up on the list, we have 1 teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of baking powder that I put both into here. And then we are going to sift this. Sorry, lost my words. We're gonna sift this and I'll be right back. After sifting the flour and the protein powder, I add in a 1/4 cup of the ground flaxseed. It just doesn't sift well, so I put it in after. And the fact that I forgot the 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which I normally do sift in. I just had forgot it this time. So I just give this a stir to mix in the flaxseed into the flour mixture. And then we're gonna move on to the wet ingredients. Now for wet ingredients, my preference is to do them in a smoothie blender. I just like the way that it mixes things up so much nicer and a lot easier on my hands since I have arthritis. Okay, so we're gonna start with 2 eggs. And to that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of almond milk. And we're gonna add 1/2 cup of cottage cheese. 1/3 cup of maple syrup. A teaspoon of vanilla extract. A teaspoon of maple extract. And 1 teaspoon of almond extract. All right, we're gonna give this a mix. Now we just stir the wet into the dry. All right, we're also going to mix in our 10 ounces of cooked sausage. It starts off as a pound, ends up around 10 ounces by the time it's cooked. We are also going to put in a cup of blueberries. There we go. All right, we're gonna stir this up, get everything mixed really well together, and then we're gonna let it sit at least 10 minutes on the counter to give the almond flour time to absorb all of the liquid, so that way you have a more tender finished muffin when it comes out of the oven. While this is sitting, we'll prepare our muffin pan. So you're gonna wanna line your muffin pan with parchments. I'll link these down below in the description. They're my favorite. I found that they work better than anything else I've tried so far. But you definitely don't want to use a little cupcake papers, because your almond flour is going to stick to that and half your muffin will just end up in the garbage. So parchment papers are the best thing you can possibly get when you are baking with almond flour. The easiest way to do this is an ice cream scoop. Just a well-rounded scoop into each one. So I preheated the oven to 350 degrees. And when I put these in the oven, I will turn it down to 325. I found that sometimes the almond flour will brown too quickly. And if you turn it down to the 325, It cools down just enough to where you're not too brown on the outside, but you're done on the inside. So I'm gonna put these in the oven for 20 to 22 minutes. And when they come out, we're gonna have another 13 grams of protein. All right, let's see how they turned out. Oh yeah. They're super soft. Gotta love that. A little bit of juiciness from the blueberries, some warmth from the maple, and the little bits of sausage going all through it. Little sweet, little savory, whole lot of heartiness. This is just such an excellent filling breakfast snack muffin. This week's lunch, so excited about, is chicken macaroni and cheese. So don't get a lot of pasta because low carb, but Hero has these new pasta noodles that we're gonna give a try this week. So we're gonna start off by boiling the water, and instead of salt, I'm trying chicken bouillon this time. This is something that I just saw a hack online about, so I thought that I would give it a shot. So you salt with the chicken bouillon and it gives the noodles some extra flavor. So you're gonna want 1.5 teaspoons of the chicken bouillon. All right, so we need 10 ounces of noodles. There's 8 in a box, so it's 1 1/4 boxes that you're gonna need for this particular recipe. So while that's cooking, we're gonna go ahead and chop up the chicken and shred the cheese. So I went this time with a rotisserie chicken just to make things a little bit easier. I'm going to chop the chicken because I thought that shredding it would be too hard to eat mixed in with the macaroni and cheese, and you have like the long pieces. So I thought maybe just chopping it with the smaller pieces would be better, but of course, you know, that's eater's preference. So I've drained our noodles, and I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of butter and just let it melt over the noodles while I'm preparing the cheese and the sauce. So we'll just cut a little bit off and mix that through there. Now I will add that with this, I did taste the noodles and it gave them a good flavor, so I do like it, but it definitely was not salty enough. So I had added some salt about midway through just to make sure that it was good and salted. All right, so we'll set these aside while we work on our cheese. For my cheeses, I chose 3. One for melting, which Fontina is absolutely the best melting cheese for mac and cheese sauce that I have found. Love Fontina. We got Gruyere for taste. It's gonna give it a subtle nuttiness to it. So I really do like a Gruyere in mac and cheese. And then finally, you want a sharp accent. I of course chose cheddar because sharp cheddar is my favorite cheese. I decided that I was gonna use the full 7 ounces of the truly grass-fed cheddar cheese rather than trying to just use the 6 on this one. So I have the 7 ounces on this. So I'm gonna need 4 ounces of the Fontina and 4 of the Gruyere. Now we're ready to make some cheese sauce, and we're gonna use the same pot that we just boiled the noodles in. We'll start with a cup of whole milk. And then we'll follow that up with a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. And then we have a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. What is this? Oh, mustard. We have a 1/2 teaspoon of mustard powder. I'm having a day. And then we have a 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika. And then we can't forget the butter. So we got another tablespoon of butter here. And then we're just gonna stir this up. And then we're gonna get it nice and warm, and we'll start adding cheese to it. So we'll just add a handful of cheese at a time so it doesn't get overwhelmed. And we'll let it melt down a bit and add in another handful. Now, if you find towards the end that your cheese is starting to separate for any reason, you can use sodium citrate, a teaspoon of that. Now, if your sauce is too runny and you need to thicken it up a bit, arrowroot powder works wonderful for that. You'll want to give it a taste before you add the salt and pepper. Oh, that doesn't need any salt at all. That's absolutely great. All right, so let's just add some pepper. I think that my sauce is a little on the loose side, so I believe I'm gonna go grab some arrowroot powder to go ahead and put in a teaspoon of this. What I might do next time is just probably lower the amount of milk that I put in there just so that it's not as thin. All right, so let me stir that in, thicken up this sauce real quick. Oh, there we go. It did a nice job of thickening it up though. Let's see if it changed the flavor. No, it's still really good. All right, let's get this sauce on these noodles. All right. Now, as far as the chicken is concerned, what I decided to do is go ahead and stir it into the mac and cheese rather than having it separate in the bowl. And I did this because it's a meal prep and it's going to be in the fridge for 5 days. I'm going to be heating these at the office in a microwave, which also tends to dry food out. So I just thought that the chicken would probably stay more moist if I went ahead and mixed it in with the mac and cheese and just be better for reheating that way. We're just going to portion this out into the 5 bowls. I like these 4-cup bowls. So I'm gonna top these off with some freshly grated Parmesan before I stick them in the fridge. All right, let's give it a taste and see how it turned out. Let's get some chicken in there, some mac and cheese. I got the chicken first. I love Publix Mojo rotisserie chicken. It has a very distinct flavor. The mac and cheese turned out excellent. I really love the hero noodles. You cannot even tell that it is a no-carb pasta. And the fact that you're getting 32 grams of fiber in a serving is just mind-boggling. But back to the taste. The cheese just works out perfectly with this combination. The sharpness of the cheddar and the nuttiness of that Gruyere, and just the smoothness of the sauce from the Fontina, because it's such a nice melting cheese. Oh, this is wonderful. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these in the fridge with the rest of the items that we've prepared. Another 60 grams of protein for our day. Heading into the afternoon, I'm ready for something sweet. Usually around 3 o'clock is when it hits me. So I am making chocolate muffins for this week's meal prep. This is another one that I've put on my channel before. So we'll breeze through this and I'll also link the full video down below. So we'll start off with 1.5 cups of almond flour in this one. And then we are gonna go with a 1/2 cup of chocolate protein powder. We're gonna add 1/4 cup of cocoa powder here, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda. And then we are going to add a pinch of salt to this. And I whisk up. I don't know why I can't get this word out today. Sift, that's the word. Okay, sorry, menopause brain. Sifting. So we're going to sift this up. It mixes everything nicely together. Plus, almond flour tends to be a little bit tougher texture. So when you sift it, it breaks up a lot of those clumps. It just gives you a better texture on your muffins. Now that we've got that all sifted up, let's work on the wet ingredients. Start with 2 eggs. And follow that up with 2/3 cup of whole Greek yogurt. Right, so we'll follow that up with 1/2 cup of no sugar added applesauce. And then we have 1/3 cup of agave. And then we have 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. All right, and let me mix this up. So now we're just gonna stir the wet into the dry and moisten it up. These will also need to sit about 10 minutes before we start baking them to allow the almond flour to absorb in all of the moisture. So I fill these pretty full. I like big muffins, so I will usually get about 9 out of this particular recipe. So I preheated the oven to 350 degrees. However, just like the blueberry sausage muffins earlier, we're gonna turn it down to 325 when I put it in, and these will bake for 20 to 22 minutes. And I'll see you shortly. All right, let's take a taste. Tastes like a soft chocolate snack muffin. It's giving off that chocolate cupcakey kind of vibe. They're really tasty. I load all of my recipes in MyFitnessPal, so down in the description below, I'll provide you the search terms that you can use if you use MyFitnessPal. I also do a printable with macros for all of my recipes that I will provide the direct download link from Dropbox for that. Website's almost done, so soon I'll be able to link it to my website to get the recipes. So to wrap this one up, we just want to reiterate where we're at. We have 47 grams of protein with our breakfast for the week. We have 13 for our morning snack, a whopping 60 grams of protein at lunchtime, and another 9 for our afternoon snack. Now I just need to figure out what I'm gonna cook for dinner. But if you're ready to start your meal prep, I will drop you right here in the blueberry sausage muffin recipe. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching.